Good morning and welcome to the North Carolina Science and Engineering Fair 2021. This is our 33rd event and our first ever virtual fair, and we are so excited to have you joining us this morning. We are welcoming students from all 9 regions across North Carolina, from public, private, charter, and homeschool, who have qualified to be our North Carolina state finalists this year. And our finalists are joining us to present their research. They're working in the judging rooms and joining us live as they can for our live events session. So we want to start out just with a welcome. North Carolina is so proud of our students that have worked so hard this year. And we would love to start out with a congratulations that was sent to us from Governor Roy Cooper. So welcome to all friends, family, parents, teachers, and especially our state finalist. And we're going to listen to Governor Cooper.
Hi, everybody. Governor Roy Cooper here. It's great to speak to you today and tell you how proud I am that you've been selected to compete in the North Carolina Science and Engineering Fair at the state level. Each year, more than 1,600 students from across North Carolina participate in science and engineering fairs at the local, regional, and state level. And being selected to compete at the state level is an impressive accomplishment, and I'm proud of your work to get here. This past year has been anything but normal. Many of you have attended school remotely and had to connect with your teachers and fellow students virtually. Your success in the science fair this year demonstrates a special resilience and strength. Participating in the science fair is a great way to apply what you learn in the classroom to real-world research projects. While this year's state competition is virtual, you'll still get the opportunity to hear from inspiring leaders in science, technology, engineering, and math, in addition to learning from your fellow students and their projects. Congratulations again on competing at the North Carolina Science and Engineering Fair. I wish you the best of luck, and I hope to see you competing again in person in 2022. Keep up the good work.
All right. So thank you so much from Governor Cooper. Welcome and congratulations. In addition to the governor's message, we actually have another important, significant person in North Carolina who wanted to welcome you this morning.
Hi, everybody.
Oh, I apologize. Let me just reset that for you. She wants to welcome you to the Science and Engineering Fair and congratulate you again on being a state finalist. So this is our State Superintendent, Catherine Truitt, from the Office of Public Instruction. And so we're going to just take a moment to listen to her welcome message.
Hello, everyone. My name is Catherine Truitt, and I am the Superintendent of Public Instruction for North Carolina. I want to extend my sincerest congratulations to all of you for being promoted to the state competition. I know you have worked so hard to research, prepare, and present your projects, and I can't wait to follow along virtually. Although this Science and Engineering Fair does not look like years past, I wanted to express how incredibly impressed I am with each and every one of you for getting to this point. This past year has been difficult, and the pandemic has posed so many challenges, but you all have persevered and overcome them in order to compete. You all should feel proud and accomplished for your work and your commitment to entering this year's competition. As a former teacher, I understand and appreciate the importance of STEM skills. Science, technology, engineering, and math are some of the most important foundational skills in life. These fields encourage critical thinking and problem solving, and STEM experts go on to make major developments and contributions to our society, as exemplified by the COVID vaccine. Your interest in STEM now will only open greater doors for you in the future, and today is only a part of your journey. I want to again congratulate all participants for your extraordinary efforts. I know your research and your findings will blow us away. I wish you all the best of luck, and I can't wait to see the top projects that will advance to ISEF virtual competition.
All right. So a message of welcome and thanks from Dr. Catherine Truitt. We know that joining or making it to the state level of the Science and Engineering Fair is a major accomplishment, and we're really, really proud and excited and happy to host this event. And so I am Theresa Gibson. I'm the Executive Director of the North Carolina Science Fair Foundation. And we work each year to bring opportunities and provide access to opportunities for students all across North Carolina to have rich inquiry experiences in STEM and engineering. So we are really excited to be here today, and we want to pause as we open the fair to just thank our sponsors. Many thanks, starting out with the Biogen Foundation, who has been our presenting sponsor and an amazing partner for many years. The foundation is really proud to sponsor this event and wants to welcome all of you and thank you for all of the hard work you've put in this year. In addition, we have several other sponsors and long-term partners and some new partners that are joining us this year. And we want to thank our platinum sponsors, SAS, the Burroughs Wellcome Fund, and the North Carolina SMT Center. These are all amazing organizations. And if you want to become more familiar with them, we invite you to jump into the symposium platform and to explore their sites. Our gold level sponsors include RTI, the Broadcom Foundation, DLH, Tunnel, Red Hat, and the Society for Science and the public. And especially the Society for Science gave us a special grant to allow us to have the symposium platform to present your projects this year. So many thanks. Again, you can find our gold level sponsors and their pages and a bit more information about them in the symposium platform. We encourage you to jump in and enjoy. Our silver level sponsor this year, this is a new sponsor to us. We're so excited to have Wiley Wilson joining us this year. In addition, we have ROE and Strategic Education Alliances and the National Inventors Hall of Fame sponsoring the FAIR program this year. And without all of these amazing sponsors, we would not be able to bring the fair to you. In addition, we have other in-kind partners that have been helping us out. Our host each year has been NC State University, and we look forward to jumping back into the live face-to-face event next year at NC State. The symposium platform is brought to you by Forager One. And so as you explore around there, they have some really great resources, and it's a very cool platform. So we're excited to have them joining us this year as a partner. In addition, Meredith College, which is where I am housed and where if you send me anything via mail, that will land at Meredith College. And then you all are very familiar with STEM Wizard at this point, and we have been using them for several years. And we hope that you all have enjoyed your experience being able to upload your pieces into STEM Wizard for judging this year. Just a brief overview of kind of some logistics. This morning, our state fair director had to jump into judging, and so Ms. Judy Day, which many of you have emailed and talked with, is pulled away into a judging room right now, but she does want to welcome you and thank you, and she will definitely be joining us tomorrow for the awards ceremony. These are just a couple of pieces of logistics about the fair as you explore the fair today and tomorrow, and then hopefully join us for the next couple of weekends. We do want to make sure that you jump into that virtual platform for the live fair, but also don't miss your judging time. So if you are on with us now, make sure you've checked your email and you get into your judging slot. Those are private rooms where you will have your judging experience, and then you can jump back into our live sessions on Symposium. Oh, and there's Judy. Welcome, Judy. I didn't see you. You want to jump in?
Yes, I'm here. So that's what I'm saying. I'm here. Hooray. All right. So Theresa has covered some of the information that I was going to be talking about, and but I will add a little bit in that last year, unfortunately, we did have to cancel at the last minute, and I know everyone was disappointed, including us. What we're celebrating today is, even though we are not face-to-face, we do have a format that we're being able to at least do a little bit of of virtual that is live with each other, and we're being able to have judging that you're able to see the judges, and students can talk with the judges and interact. So it's not the best of worlds, but it's much better than what it has been in the past, and we've all become virtual pros at being able to meet and Zoom and whatever your platform has been to be able to communicate with others. So I do want to congratulate all of the students that have made it to this level. That means that you have won at a local level pretty much. Some of you were able to bypass the local level because you didn't have anything at the local level, but you were dedicated enough to be engaged in research anyway. But you have won at a regional competition to be able to make it to the state competition. And that the fact that you were able to do this when schools were not always in session and you didn't have opportunities to work with mentors says a lot about your dedication and your enthusiasm about science and engineering and technology. And I really want to congratulate you for all the work that you have done. And Theresa is going to go into more detail about the live sessions that we will have today that are on the symposium site. I hope you take part of those. We'll have some of our students that you may have volunteered. You may be one of them that will be doing the 2 minutes with the mic. We have some of our former students and some of the people that we've worked with and we know that will be giving special will be special speakers to be able that have great information and are exciting, and I hope you will listen to those and become encouraged. I know one of the young men that we have as a speaker, I took to ISEF, so I got to know him very well there, and he's at NC State currently and doing really amazing research that he's going to talk to you about and how we got there and what it has done for him to become engaged in research. Theresa's already mentioned that passport, that when you're visiting those exhibitors and your sponsors, you need to complete all of that. And it needs to be turned in by 3 p.m. today by filling out the Google form that she will probably go into a lot more detail about. And I hope you enjoy the symposium site that you're seeing and really explore it, not just looking at all the student projects, but explore all the different parts of the sponsors and exhibitors. We are going to be leaving this up for at least 6 months because we hope to use it when we're working with our professional development with teachers. And I think it's also a great opportunity for you to be able to look at projects that other students have been engaged in. Now, the junior projects and the elementary projects will be listed up here as well as we get closer to their actual events. The seniors take the stage right now because you're the first ones, and we have deadlines for you that have to be met for some of the awards. So you are a guinea pig this year in figuring out how everything worked, and some worked real well. Some we've had a few hiccups, but I think the day is moving forward. But enjoy that symposium site, and as you're visiting the student projects, you are able to make comments about the projects that the students can read and other people can read as well. So if you have some encouragement that you would like to give students, please feel free to do that. But please watch what you're saying because we will be monitoring that along the way. So I'm looking forward to listening in the rest of the day and watching, and then I will be around tomorrow at 3 p.m. for the awards ceremony. And even though I'm not going to get to see everybody's faces this year, know that I am with you and I have been engaged in working on your projects and am very excited about today and tomorrow and look forward to finding out how everyone does. And if one word that I always like to tell students is that please share your excitement for the work that you're doing with others. Talk to your judges, let them know you're excited about what you're doing. Talk to your friends, share the opportunities that are out there in science, technology, engineering. It's fun things to do. That's exploration, that's solving problems, asking questions and answering them. And you can't do that in quite the same way in anything else. So keep going with it. And I will be checking in and can't wait to find out what the results are. But take care. Now I'll pass it back to Theresa.
Thank you, Judy. So excited. And I'm really happy you were able to jump in and join us this morning. It's great to see your face. Judy mentioned that we won't get to see all of your faces this year, which we are sad about, but we do welcome photos. So please take pictures of yourself throughout the fair and send them to us. We would love to have them and post them if you give us permission to post them. We love to celebrate with you. All right, and so with that, those are the fair logistics. If you're looking for that passport form, it is linked on the landing page in Symposium, so you can just click on it there. I did set it so you can preview it before you go and explore the vendors, so you know exactly what you're looking for. You will have to answer a question for each exhibitor and vendor. I'm going to do a quick overview of our events. The events that we're doing live, you are welcome to join us any Saturday that we are here. And so just very quickly, we have these amazing Spark Talks coming to you each Saturday. And our 3 speakers this morning, you're going to get to know a little better. We're really excited to have Daniel and Sayumi and Sai joining us this morning. But in addition, if you can join us back again on April 17th, you will meet 3 other alumni students. And so we have Amari, Giovanna, and Zane joining us for the 17th. And on the 24th, we have Anna, Lauren, and Jack joining us. I'm really excited to hear all of their Spark stories and get to know these students a little better. And we are going to give you the opportunity for Q&A after each talk. So you are welcome to ask questions using the chat function. And then don't miss our distinguished lunch speakers. So today we have Jacqueline Howard joining us. She's the VP of Global Supply Chain at Starbucks Coffee, and she has had an amazing and diverse career. I'm really excited for her to share with you kind of her experience as a woman leader in STEM and how she's married that with her master's in business administration and made a career out of it. Very excited. And Dr. Rachel Lance will be joining us on April 17th. And Dr. Lance does her research on trauma from ballistics injuries. She's got some really exciting things. She's going to join us from her lab. So we hope that you will be able to join us. We will also have a guest speaker on the 24th. We are still finalizing the details on that speaker. So we will make it known as soon as we have it, the firm line drawn for that speaker. And then each week, this is a feature I'm so excited about, and many of the students on here have signed up for this. This is where our state finalists get to share their research publicly. So we will be recording this. We will have the recordings available to you, but we hope you will join us live, cheer on your peers, and get excited about all of the research being done in North Carolina and the amazing things that are happening. So with that, we are ready to kick off this year's North Carolina Science and Engineering Fair. Before we jump into today's events, we do want you to mark your calendars to be joining us next year. We hope we'll be back face-to-face, looking forward to that at North Carolina State University in the Talley Center. The dates have been requested and we are expecting confirmation any day now. We're asking you to mark them down in your calendar. We hope you will join us for that fair event next year. All right, so welcome. Now we are going to jump right into our live virtual events, and we're going to start the day off with our Spark speakers. But then following the Spark speakers, we will have a lunch speaker. There's a little break in there to allow you to grab some food and click on the new Zoom link to join that lunch session. And that will be Jacqueline Howard today. I just talked about her briefly, and I'll give you more information on her in that live session. And there's more information and her full bio linked in Symposium. And then we will jump into the 2 minutes and a mic with a mic, and that session will be longer, but we will put a 10-minute break in the middle there so you can stand up, stretch, grab another, plate of food or a drink, and watch the rest of your peers or share if you are one of the students who signed up to share with us today. And then do not forget to join us again tomorrow for the Senior Division Awards ceremony. Really, really excited to jump into those events. And with that, I'm just going to give you a little bit of what to expect as we jump into our Spark Talks. And so if you don't know what a Spark Talk is, it is really what we've asked our researchers, our alumni from the fair to share is something they're passionate about. So it's either a big idea, something they really care about, or a new question that they've stumbled upon that they want you to start thinking on. And so they're going to each share for 10 minutes. We will have Daniel sharing and then 10 minutes for you all to drop questions into the chat. You will not be able to jump on the microphone, but I will be pulling questions out of the chat. So you're welcome to drop questions into the chat throughout. You're also welcome to use the reactions in Zoom. If you don't know where they are, it's scroll over your mouse over the bottom of your screen and you're going to see a reactions button. You might have to click more to see it, and it will allow you to clap and raise your hand, etc. So feel free to use the reactions throughout the session to cheer folks on. And your charge for the Spark Talks is to just get inspired and ask new questions. So as you're listening to the speakers, I want you to think about your passions, their passions, how do they intersect, and what new questions do these talks bring to mind? So with that, we are going to jump into our featured speakers for this morning. Each of these three students is an NCSEF alumni, which means they have been sitting right where you are sitting before, and they have continued on through their life and stayed in touch. And we're really excited to have these alumni. They're also featured on our Alumni Corner. And so if you want to learn more about them, you can go to our website and learn a little bit about each of these speakers. Right now, I am going to get us started by introducing our first speaker. So this is Daniel, and Daniel is actually a Region 6 alumnus, and so that's over by the Charlotte area. He's currently a student at North Carolina State University and is a Park Scholar, studying chemical and biomolecular engineering with a minor in biotechnology. He works under the guidance of Assistant Professor of Chemical and Biomolecular Engineering Nathan Crook, Emeritus Professor of Biology Robert Grossfield, and Mathematics Lecturer Elizabeth Brown, and was recently awarded the Goldwater Scholarship. His research involves working with probiotic yeast, and he's interested in using the yeast to create beta-carotene for use in the prevention of vitamin A deficiency. He's currently planning to pursue a PhD in chemical engineering and is thinking it will likely be in synthetic biology, specifically around disease treatment. And so with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and pass the mic over to Daniel. Welcome, Daniel. You are muted.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
No, thank you so much for that introduction. And hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. As Theresa said, my name is Daniel, and I'm an NC Science and Engineering Fair alumni from Charlotte originally. I had the opportunity to attend the International Science and Engineering Fair 2 times as part of this program, and it was a really impactful experience for me. So I hope that one day you guys are also able to have that experience. I am now at NC State University, as Theresa said, studying chemical and biomolecular engineering, and I'm really enjoying it there. I encourage all of you to apply. And today, I would like to tell you about my worst research enemy, the biggest obstacle to me in my undergraduate research. This is the challenge that time and time again has disrupted my schedule, wasted my expensive reagents, and laid my experiments to waste. My research nemesis is this. This object that you see in this picture is my worst research enemy, something that my colleagues and I disdainfully call the ledge. The ledge is this little bit right here in the circle that sticks off of the glass box. The box is called an Electroporation Cuvette, and it's a tool used to get DNA inside of bacterial cells in a process called electroporation. The way it works is you dump your cells into this box, this cuvette, you mix in a little bit of DNA, and then you electrocute the cells. That's right, I hate to break it to you, but bioengineering can sometimes be more accurately described as microorganism torture. Electrocuting the cells forces microscopic pores on their surface to open up, allowing the DNA in. It's a pretty cool technique, and it's not supposed to be too difficult, and yet I failed at it over and over and over again my first year of undergraduate research, and this ledge is to blame. See, when you put the cuvette into the electroporation machine, you have to do so in a particular orientation. The ledge must be facing out. Do you like my PowerPoint graphics, by the way? That way it sits properly within the metal housing and the current is delivered directly to the bacteria. Everything's good, DNA gets in, everything is going according to plan. However, if you're like me, you sometimes forget this orientation and you stick the cuvette in like this. You can already tell right off the bat that this isn't going to go well. When you try to electroporate your bacteria with the cuvette in this orientation, a couple of bad things happen. First, the machine makes a very alarming, high-pitched, high-volume beeping noise, causing everyone in the lab to turn their head and look at you. After that, it displays the word arc, meaning that the electricity has kind of arced around the bacteria, missed it completely, and your transformation has failed. Worst of all, you have to sheepishly tell your colleagues that once again, you have failed your DNA transformation, and it's all because of the ledge. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Dang, this guy is pretty sloppy, making the same mistake over and over again. And maybe there's some truth to those accusations, but I promise you that in general, I'm not a sloppy scientist. I'm careful, precise, and intentional with everything I do in lab. In fact, when I first joined my lab, I got a reputation for writing everything down. I would follow the grad students around with a notebook and a piece of pencil. I would just write down every word that came out of their mouth because they didn't want to make a mistake. And yet somehow I managed to always screw up that ledge. Why? I've spent a lot of time thinking about this, and I think I've come up with a reason. I was trying to be perfect, to avoid making a mistake. Specifically, I wanted to be an expert when I was still a beginner. I wanted to feel like a capable scientist who knew what he was doing and didn't have to ask questions. And so when I put the cuvette into the machine, I never stopped to confirm with my colleagues whether I was doing it correctly. But because of that perfectionist attitude, I ended up making the same mistake over and over again. That's when I was introduced to a concept that changed the way I think about research and eventually changed the way I approach life in general. It's called the beginner's mindset. A beginner's mindset simply refers to having the open and accepting mind of a beginner. Having a beginner's mindset is about having the humility to recognize one's own limitations. It's about asking questions and being open to new possibilities. And if you're a perfectionist like me, it's about giving yourself permission to mess up. I want to point out right off the bat that despite its name, a beginner's mindset isn't just for beginners to be discarded after picking up more expertise. A beginner's mindset is something you can have even when you're an expert. Many accomplished scientists will tell you that when they're tackling a new problem, one of the first things they do is try to forget about their preconceived notions and experience in order to just let their creativity flow. All of this to say, you can adopt a beginner's mindset in any area of your life, research or otherwise, regardless of your level of experience and expertise in that area. And doing so can allow you to become more creative and resilient in the face of failure. After learning about the beginner's mindset, I started making a conscious effort to adopt it in research. For me, that meant asking all the questions. Can you remind me how to do this technique? Why do we do the steps in this order? And most importantly, where does the ledge go again? When I made a mistake, I allowed myself to acknowledge it and move forward without beating myself up. And with time, research started to feel different. Now I realize that I can use a beginner's mindset in so many areas of my life, not just in research. Now, they say that one of the most important parts of giving a presentation like this is knowing your audience. And given that y'all are a crowd of incredibly high-achieving high school researchers, and that I have just made a very bold claim about the effectiveness of a beginner's mindset, I wonder if you're all thinking the same thing. Show me the data. I wish I could show you a graph that proved that the beginner's mindset made me a more effective scientist. But not only do I not have the data for this, I'm not sure if it's true. I don't think a beginner's mindset made me a more effective scientist exactly. My experiments probably still fail at exactly the same rate as before. But adopting that beginner's mindset has allowed me to meet challenges with enthusiasm and flexibility, and to bounce back from failure with optimism. However, since this is a science fair, I would like to share with you some cool experimental results from what I've accomplished so far in research at NC State in order to encourage you to consider continuing to pursue research once you get to college. As many of you already know, bacteria are incredibly useful for producing a variety of important molecules like antibiotics and cancer medications. One way to improve bacterial production of a small molecule is to use a technique called directed evolution, which is depicted in this figure you see. In directed evolution, we introduce a bunch of random mutations into the DNA of our population of bacteria. And then we check out the phenotypes, the results of these mutations. We then select for the variants that show improved function. Over many cycles, we can produce microorganisms with drastically improved production, our target molecule. However, this technique is not without its limitations. First of all, conventional directed evolution techniques require a lot of pushing DNA in and pulling it right back out of bacteria, so you can only work with relatively small pathways in terms of DNA length. Additionally, producing all these random mutations in cells means that mutations are going to accumulate throughout the whole genome, not just in the genes you're trying to evolve. At NC State, I'm part of a team looking to get around these limitations by using this guy, a P1 bacteriophage, which is a virus that infects bacteria like E. coli. Our method for directed evolution, called inducible directed evolution, or IDE, works like this. By placing special packaging sites around our gene or pathway of interest, we can actually trick the P1 bacteriophage into packaging our mutated DNA instead of its own. So it does what any good virus does. It picks up that piece of DNA that we've introduced mutations to, it puts it inside its capsule, it busts out of the cell, and then it goes on to infect new, fresh, unmutated cells. Since only our gene or pathway of interest is transmitted, we don't accumulate those hitchhiker mutations in the rest of the genome. Plus, P1 can carry huge chunks of DNA. We've used it to successfully transmit pathways as large as 36 kilobase pairs, but we could hypothetically evolve a pathway 87 kilobase pairs long. For context, that's enough to carry more than 60 copies of the human insulin gene. We've used this technique in a lot of cool ways, including making fluorescent cells glow brighter. This is GFP fluorescence that you're seeing in this picture, and we've engineered cells to glow brighter than they would otherwise. In my opinion, the coolest thing we've done with inducible directed evolution is to make E. coli grow on tagatose, which is an artificial sweetener. Normally, E. coli doesn't like to eat tagatose, but after a few rounds of IDE, we can change its mind. This black trajectory you see on the bottom of this graph is wild type E. coli, unevolved. You can see it doesn't like to grow on tagatose very much. It doesn't increase in optical density very much over time. However, after a few rounds of IDE, you see that we get these other colors of trajectories, the blue and green and gray. Not only do these E. coli strains grow faster on this artificial sweetener, but they grow to a greater optical density, which is pretty cool. We're teaching E. coli to use a food it couldn't otherwise use in nature. Okay, that's enough science talk, but I had to get that in there. To end this presentation, I want to encourage you to think about areas of your life where you might apply a beginner's mindset. Maybe today it's answering a science fair judge's question with, I don't know. I would hypothesize, look, remember that I don't know is an acceptable answer in science. And for those of you heading to college soon, I think a beginner's mindset will be very helpful to you. Whether it's going to office hours with your professors and TAs, asking your friends and upperclassmen for help, or if you're like me, swallowing your pride and asking the RA how to use a washing machine, having the humility to ask questions will make your college experience better. I'll leave you with this. A good scientist isn't someone who always knows the answers and who never messes up. A good scientist is someone who is curious and humble enough to constantly ask questions and make mistakes. I hope you're all able to ask some good questions and make some good mistakes today. Thank you.
Hooray! Thank you, Daniel, so much for that amazing talk. Now we have a few minutes. If you have specific questions for Daniel about his talk, Beginner's Mindset, or anything else about his experience in research or his pathway to college, really the floor is kind of open. And while our participants think, Daniel, I would love to ask you a quick question about Beginner's Mindset. And so you said you stumbled upon the beginner's mindset and it changed your life. And I'm wondering, do you feel like you're always good at this or you're constantly working on it?
That's a great question. I absolutely am constantly working on that. I think probably many of us in this call feel the constant pull of perfectionism and the desire to project expertise. And that has continued for me even after I've gotten to college. So it's kind of a constant effort to remember to cut myself some slack and allow myself to approach problems like a beginner and not feel like I have to always have expertise, even though I am developing expertise, even though I am getting better at all of the research skills and procedures that I'm trying to learn about. I have to constantly remind myself to take a deep breath and apply that beginner's mindset.
Great. That's awesome. And I just have one more follow-up question. When you and I spoke, we've spoken a few times, but I think this may have been during your official alumni interview. You talked a lot about collaboration across interest and fields. I wonder if you can talk to our audience a little bit about your experience with that.
For sure. I think that's definitely a growing part of research, regardless of your field. The problems of the 21st century are so huge that they require teams across many disciplines to really make a dent in. And that's something I have been learning more and more through my research at NC State. So I'm housed in the chemical engineering department. We collaborate in departments across the university. For example, I do a lot of mathematical modeling as part of my research. So biological systems are so complex, we have to develop some pretty sophisticated models to understand exactly what's going on and predict what's going to happen. For example, with those viruses, I've developed some models to predict exactly what proportion of the cells they're going to infect when we use them to transmit DNA. We also collaborate with food scientists, which was an unexpected kind of left turn for my research career. That wasn't something I was expecting. But for my other project, which involves using yeast to produce beta-carotene to prevent vitamin A deficiency, we want to use those yeast in food cultures, but we're not food experts. So that requires a lot of collaboration with nutritionists and food scientists to understand what exactly is the best way to deliver these nutrients to the human body. So all of that to say, regardless of what your field is, if you continue in research, you will definitely have a lot of opportunities to interact across kind of scientific divides, because that is the only way really at this point to make an impact in the world, is to work interdisciplinarily.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Daniel, for joining us and for your talk. If you all think of more questions for Daniel, he's going to stay on for the other speakers. And so you are welcome to drop new questions for Daniel in the chat as they pop up into your head. And with that, I am going to move to our next speaker, Sayumi De Silva. Sayumi is an alumna from our Region 8 competitions. And Sayumi's going to take us in a little bit of a different direction. She's the eldest of 3 children and is currently in 10th grade attending Jackson County Early College. She loves to play a variety of musical instruments and is part of the Junior Appalachian Musicians. Their acronym is JAM, which I think is very cool. She enjoys painting, drawing, cooking, and is really focusing now on Sri Lankan dishes, which is her heritage, and learning from her mother how to cook and develop that Sri Lankan food. While Sayumi's research for NCSSF has largely been in chemistry, she is as she's explored her diverse interests, it's brought her to some new questions that today you're going to see bring her to the intersection of STEM and history. And so with that, I'm going to give Sayumi just a minute to pass the mic. And so Sayumi, if you want to get your screen sharing going and unmute yourself, we will get you rolling for your Spark Talk. And the name of Sayumi's Spark Talk today is Radium Roses. Welcome, Sayumi.
Hello. Can you see that?
Yes, we can.
All right. I don't think I can present it, so I'll just do it like this.
If you just click slideshow, it will allow you to start it.
Where is that?
Up over to in the top bar. Right next to animations. There you go. And just from beginning, you got it.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
So before I start my presentation, I have a question for everyone. And so my project is about women who worked in nuclear factories during World War II. So real quickly, I want you all to think of someone that you would hear or think about their name from World War II or the Holocaust, and just keep that in your mind. Was that person someone like Einstein or Winston Churchill or Hitler? And I have a feeling that they were someone like this, a big figurehead in World War II. And I also want you to think if they were male or female. And now, was that person of color? And right here you can read, there's, these are my guesses of who you thought of. And maybe you thought of someone from the Holocaust as well, like Anne Frank. So during World War II, there were a lot of men going overseas to the war and becoming soldiers for the war effort. And because of that, there was a lot of job opportunities that were open. There were a lot of jobs that weren't being filled, and women were encouraged to join these jobs. So there was a lot of propaganda like this poster right here that was created to encourage women to join. And many jobs were filled for different reasons. Sometimes women would join a job because their brother or their husband or father was in the war and they wanted to support them. Or they just wanted some money, because you had to keep in mind, this was right after the Great Depression. So our economy in America was very low and there was a lot of poverty. So there was job opportunities that provided money for people. And the Manhattan Project was one thing that provided jobs for these women. So before I get into that, I want to talk a little bit about Rosie the Riveter. And you've probably seen her or heard about her, especially in class, in history class. And she was a famous face in propaganda during World War II. The creator was this man called J. Howard Miller, and her image was created in 1942. And her name was actually based off of a song that was created during this time. And of course, she was used to encourage women to find jobs. As you can see, it says at the top of this poster, "We can do it." And I got my inspiration for the name of my project from her name, Roses. And actually the other part I got, radium, was from the woman that actually worked in the Manhattan Project, which I'll talk about a little bit later. So there were many types of job offers, and this was mainly in the industrial division because women actually shifted from like female-based jobs to jobs that normally women wouldn't occupy, such as construction or driving trucks or chopping lumber. And as you can see, there's a lot of other jobs listed right here. And also they started joining like jobs in the Army, like they joined the Air Force, and they had their own division for those as well, and the Marine Corps and things like that. So moving on, about the Manhattan Project, a little bit about it. It was this project that was originally created because FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, became suspicious of Germany. And there was people talking about the possibility of Hitler trying to create nuclear weapons. So they wanted to counterattack that in the US. And to do that, they had all these different sites you can see on this map right here, which were nuclear factories. And they were basically trying to create nuclear weapons, which we know because eventually we had the atomic bomb created. And this was originally created in 1939. And it was a project, of course, to focus on nuclear weapons. So there were many types of jobs available to women in the Manhattan Project. One thing to note was that actually a lot of these jobs that were occupied by women were normally not that high in ranks. There were some people maybe that got higher in ranks, but most of them were lower jobs. Of course, the women that actually worked in these jobs had different feelings and emotions about them. And something interesting to think about was that although these women did a lot of these jobs in this project, they weren't actually told what they were doing. So there was a lot of secrecy, and even if people asked questions, they weren't given straight answers, which was kind of crazy to think about. You know, they were just kind of helping build this bomb and they didn't even know that they were building one. And actually, I read interviews about this on this website called the Atomic Heritage Foundation, which right here you can see. And some of these women were actually disgusted by what they were doing because, you know, even though we think of the bomb, I guess like I interpret it as something that helped us win the war, it was still kind of unethical. You know, these people didn't know. And also the fact that we actually use those bombs is kind of terrifying as well. And I'm pretty sure that maybe some of the women thought that as well. So I'm not going to read these, but you can read them if you like. These are some of the women that worked in the foundation, or sorry, in the project. And all three of these ladies right here were scientists. And like I said before, they weren't really told what they were doing. And they also had mixed feelings about it. So moving on, one of the like very important machines in the Manhattan Project was this Calutron device. And here's an image of it right here. And this was actually used at Oak Ridge. And there were also women that were operating these machines. The Calutron machine, what it basically does is it separates these two types of uranium. So naturally what you find commonly is U-238, but to make the bomb, they needed this U-235, which is difficult to extract. So they use this electromagnetic separation to separate that. And like I said before, these ladies known as the Calutron girls were the ones that did all worked all the devices. Of course, they didn't know what they were doing, like I said before. And so a lot, as you can see right here, these ladies worked at this Y12 plant in Oak Ridge, and most of them were high school graduates. And so they were just told to turn these knobs or switch these levers, and they just did as they were told. Moving on, there were also a lot of minority groups working within the Manhattan Project. And this image right here shows these ladies working on the SS George Washington Carver. And that was one of the ships they used during the war. And so according to the Atomic Heritage Foundation, there are thousands of African-American women working across the United States. And there are also people of the Hispano communities and Pueblo Indians at Los Alamos. And that's also where they had their little, well, not little, but their atomic bomb testing site. Even though people of minority groups were allowed to work, there was a lot of discrimination and segregation. Like some of the, there was one woman that said that she wasn't allowed to live with her husband. They were an interracial couple because of the segregation rules. And one of the Black ladies working, I think it was at Oak Ridge as well, mentioned how, here, it's in this next slide, mentioned, Katie Strickland mentioned how the food at the mess hall was bad, and she actually had to make her own biscuit pan out of this leftover wood, and that's how she made her own food. And although there were other people that had mixed feelings, so like Lydia Martinez said that the people treated her really well where she worked. And she said right here, you can see that she was treated the best that she had ever been. And actually, Katie Strickland also mentioned that even though there was segregation and discrimination, she was really happy to find money as well because she was supporting herself and her husband as well. So moving on, here's a little chart that shows women working in the industrial force. So before and during and after the war, it's kind of crazy to think about because initially propaganda was convincing women to work and saying, oh, it's a good thing. But after the war, when all the men came back from fighting in the wars and battles, they kind of deterred women from working. The propaganda all switched to, oh, you should all go back to being housewives. And actually some women were forcefully removed from their jobs by superior people, that worked there. And as you can see, this is in the industrial force. It started right here before the war and these different things increased. But when places like women working in iron and steel and automobiles decreased severely from 22.3% to 9.4%, like that. However, ladies working in clothing and textiles stayed fairly consistent throughout time. And that's kind of interesting to think about because those were jobs that I guess women occupied more often. And although a lot of women stopped working and returned to being housewives, there were still some ladies that continued doing their jobs that still worked as scientists as well. But of course, that was a very small amount. And right here, I wanted to compare the current ladies working in the labor force. So as you can see, it's still very little men compared to women. There's less women working in all these different places. And I also wanted to show you all the stats in STEM jobs and fields. As you can see, so this dark blue color is men. This lighter, I guess like a turquoise color is women. And then this dark gray bar and then the light gray bar, it shows are not statistically different. So jobs like biological technicians or other sciences are fairly the same. But as you can see, overall in STEM, there's more men than women. And especially down here, you can see in like material engineers or civil engineers, basically any engineer, there's more men than women. And then I also have another graph. Now, this is the number of STEM degrees and certificates awarded in the US by gender, as you can see right here. And yet again, there's more male than female. And across time, you know, it increases just a little bit. And I also forgot to mention that the previous chart I showed you all was from 2019, I think. Okay, so that's all I have, but I hope that I left an imprint on you all and you guys were able to learn the names of some more people. And it shows that there's actually a lot of just normal people behind all these amazing scientists. Of course, they contribute a lot, but there were also all these people behind them that were helping to help all these projects and to create the bomb.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sayumi. We can give a round of applause for Sayumi. If you have new questions that popped into your mind or a new thoughts, as Sayumi talked, you're welcome to drop it in the chat. Sayumi, as you and I talked about this presentation, you talked to me a little bit about kind of how you uncovered this and what drove you to dive into some more research on this topic.
Yeah, so originally I did this project as a project for school. And the main reason I wanted to do it was because I was interested in learning in a topic that I didn't know about. So I knew about all of these people like Hitler and Mussolini and Einstein, but I didn't know about all these normal people that were working behind all these geniuses, I guess. And I didn't know especially about these women that were working in the Manhattan Project. We didn't learn about this in school. I think I've heard about Oak Ridge maybe once or twice just because I live near the Fontana Dam, and that's a major part, especially in Oak Ridge, because that's what gave the electricity and power for this project. But that was because I went on a trip there, so I never learned about it in school.
Yeah, I've heard that many times. We do learn about some of the same people each year in school. And Daniel's asking, does this knowledge kind of uncovering these women in STEM and these minorities that worked in STEM, does it change your ideas or plans about how you will engage in research as a scientist?
I'm not really sure that's a good question. Well, I guess it gives me motivation to try hard in the STEM field.
Yeah, and your research has mostly been in chemistry, right?
chemistry and biology.
Yeah, and if you look at your chart, I think chemistry is one of the lesser known women fields, but biology certainly really high for the women. So congratulations. I hope you pave your way through that chemistry world. All right. Well, thank you, Sayumi. If you want to stop sharing, I will work to pull up our next presenter. And if you have questions for Sayumi as you are thinking and stay with us, you can drop them in the chat and she will be staying with us to answer them if you have them. All right, and so moving on to our final Spark speaker, who is here to kind of share her passion with us this morning. We have Sai Varanasi, and Sai is an alumna from Region 3B for North Carolina Science and Engineering Fair. She's enrolled at Georgia Tech with a major in mechanical engineering and works in a lab using thermodynamics to study electrochemical systems. The focus of these systems is sustainability. One example of the work they do is looking at membranes in a system to create fertilizers in a cleaner way. Some of their work focuses on negative carbon emissions, which ties to her passion using the properties of physics to have a positive impact on the environment. The lab that she works in does actually bring together her interest in engineering and sustainable, cleaner world. And so with that, Sai is going to talk to us about coming together to create a cleaner world. Sai, welcome. And if you want to open up your mic, I will pass it to you.
Great. Thank you so much for the introduction, and thanks everyone for being here. So to start off, I want to pose a few questions for you. So what if we could live in a world where we could go outside in a city anywhere in the world and not have to worry about pollution at all? You could just go and you wouldn't see smog and it would all be fine. You could live in a world where you wouldn't have to worry about the increasing occurrence of natural disasters, and you could go to the beach without worrying that it'll all be underwater in 50 years. And thinking about some of these questions is really what sparked my interest in sustainability, since I was in middle school. So in 7th grade, as part of a class project, we had to take a carbon footprint test. And for this carbon footprint test, I took it and I kind of evaluated all of the different choices that I make on a daily basis. And for me, I thought I was always making clean choices in life. So I was using energy efficient appliances, my family compost, we're vegetarian. So generally, I always had thought, okay, I'm making clean choices. So that's kind of all you can do. And that's good enough. But that test was really eye-opening because number one, I saw how many tons per year of carbon dioxide I personally was emitting. And I was like, well, that's just me. Everyone else is also in the world doing the exact same thing. And then another thing that was a really eye-opening metric was they had a metric that was if every person in the world lived like you, it would take this many Earths to be able to sustainably create those resources. And that number was obviously greater than 1. So I think that was kind of the moment for me where I was like, okay, sustainability is really important. And that's kind of something that I wanted to learn more about. So I started just looking up different things about sustainability, such as renewable energy, fossil fuels, and how they're hurting our environment, what the climate's going to look like in 20 years, 50 years, 100 years, and all kinds of questions like that. And those questions really got me interested in sustainability, and it made me want to take more classes related to that. Like climate change biology and environmental engineering. And some of those classes made me decide and solidified my passion for the environment and made me want to go into a career relating to the environment and a career in which I would be able to help make a difference for this really big problem. So therefore, when I went to college, I was like, okay, I'm going to be an environmental engineering major because I like engineering and it just kind of made sense because environmental is in the name. So I was like, okay, this is going to be the way that I would be able to best make an impact. And when I took this major, and I took a major related class my first semester called Introduction to Civil and Environmental Engineering. And in this class, we did some civil and some environmental engineering. And honestly, both of these topics that we were learning just weren't really interesting to me. For the civil side, it was more like we were talking about like buildings and roads, and that wasn't super interesting to me. Then on the environmental side, we were talking about a lot about pollution and about water, and those were also not necessarily I was interested in specifically. And a lot of the concepts that we were using were more like chemistry focused. So at that point, I was like, okay, maybe I should change my major. And I went to the career fair, and I went to both like an environmental engineering career fair and then also like the regular career fair. And I was kind of just looking at different options and kind of seeing what types of jobs are out there. And I think that something that really stuck out to me was that environmental engineering specifically was a lot of like water-based and water treatment stuff. And for me, that wasn't as interesting. But at that point, I was like, okay, I have all of these career goals of wanting to do something environmental related. But at the same time, like what I thought was environmental focused isn't exactly the right thing for me. So I decided to change my major to mechanical engineering because it's more focused in terms of like physics and being able to apply physics to different problems and being able to apply that like what you consider engineering typically. And I think that in doing that, I was very hesitant about it because I didn't know if there would be a path for me to be a mechanical engineering major and also be able to work on something long-term that would be beneficial to sustainability. Because a lot of times when we look at mechanical engineering, especially when you go to a career fair or something, there are a lot of jobs in like natural gas and oil and things like that. So at that point, I was kind of like unsure if this is maybe the right path, but I was very interested in all the classes and everything. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. So then I started looking for labs at Georgia Tech and different types of research that is related to the environment. And some of the labs that I was looking at were one where they did physics modeling of glacier ice melting, and they kind of did like a lot of coding related to that. There's another lab that was looking at systems of batteries and how you could like improve those with various systems they're using. And then there's the lab that I ended up joining called the Water Lab at Georgia Tech. And that lab, one of the things that we do is doing clean energy or clean methods to produce ammonia for fertilizers. And that's kind of like all of those three different sections, like topics for those three labs that I was looking at really made me see that there's so many different aspects to sustainability. It's not just kind of like what you think about when you're like, okay, this is environmental science or this is environmental engineering, that really like there's so many different topics and fields that can relate to sustainability. And this kind of got me thinking about other types of career paths that are related to the environment and sustainability. And I've kind of seen this through various classes that I've taken, including humanities classes at Georgia Tech. So I think that some like there's like you could do like environmental law, you could do writing about the environment and kind of like journalism, those types of things. There's economics. And I took a class where the person teaching the class was like doing a PhD in environmental economics. So a lot of the examples we were looking at in that class were related to carbon taxes and things like that. I'm taking a class currently called Global Development, and we talked about developing different countries and how they can develop in more sustainable ways and how we can kind of work towards that goal. There's all types of mathematical modeling, computer science, chemistry, biology, physics, so many different ways that you can take whatever you're passionate about, whatever you're interested in, and apply that to the environment. And I think that this really got me thinking about how all of these different people can come together and create a holistic solution to a problem that's huge. And this is kind of similar to what Daniel was talking about, because you have all of these different people and they all have different skills, right? And you have like a physicist, you have a mathematician, a chemist, an engineer, and you have all of these different skills and they're all able to come together to create a very creative approach versus just someone who's looking at it from one angle or one side and doesn't have the full picture. If you just have an engineer or a scientist who's creating some type of new method for clean energy, that person doesn't have the skills in order to be able to apply that to what the real world looks like. They don't have the economic skills to be able to say, is this technology actually viable in our economy? They don't have the political skills maybe to navigate implementing these things through the government. And I think that having all of these different mindsets and all of these different ideas and approaches and putting them together is really what's going to help us solve some of the biggest problems in the world, one of them being climate change. And I think that just generally what you can do to kind of continue with this goal is taking whatever types of skills you have, whatever you actually enjoy doing on a day-to-day basis, and taking those and applying them to whatever passion and large goal you have in mind, and finding that creative way in order to do that. Because when you find that creative way and you don't just follow the path most taken, you end up with more skills and you end up with more creativity in order to solve these problems. And you think about it in a way that hasn't already been thought about before. And when you're able to implement this, you then can make a difference in the world's biggest problems.
All right, hooray. Thank you so much, Sai, for sharing your story and your passions. If you have specific questions for Sai, we welcome you to drop them into the chat and I will give them to her verbally. And Sai, I know that when you and I talked, well, people are thinking, talked about kind of the idea of your passion for these groups coming together and the importance of when we work globally, thinking about the capabilities of the countries that are doing it and what we're asking of them and what we ask of ourselves. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So I know that's something I think I watched a Bill Gates talk on this, or one of the points that he brought up was this. And then we talked about it more in the global development class that I'm taking right now. So if we have all of these countries that are considered developed and they're all polluting the environment so much, right? And at the same time, we expect other countries that are maybe more developing, that are not causing this much pollution, to be developing in a very sustainable way. It's kind of unfair to those countries, and it kind of puts more strain on them if they're trying to use like solar energy, which is not as reliable as using just like coal and things like that. So I think that making sure that you have a fair and like equitable approach to this, and ensuring that because sustainability is not just about carbon and the carbon footprint, because you can't just have people who are unable to access resources that they need in order to do that. So yeah.
Great. And then we have a question. Do you have any tips for that? Like Daniel's relating to your, the journey of trying to find the major that fits your passions and your goals. Do you have any tips for people who are entering college soon, with many of which are on our
yeah, so I think that what I would say is talk to as many different people as you can. Something that really helped me was talking to a bunch of different people. And even if you don't agree with what they're saying, I think that that's really important to get all different perspectives, because especially I've had so many different conversations with people I completely agree with, people I completely disagree with, and them telling me what major I should be. And for me to at least understand the reasoning behind it and see, okay, like, do I agree with this? Do I disagree with this? That's one way to help. And another thing is just like, you can take classes, go to different research like fairs and like symposiums and things like that, because right now they're all virtual and usually open to people. Go to like as many different things that you can go to, various events and things, and like talk to upperclassmen, and that's very helpful. So just like learning as much as you can and kind of seeing where your interests align, and at the same time being okay and being open to change. And I think that was something that was a really big thing for me, is like when I had started my major, I was like, okay, I've already taken some of these classes, and now like I'm gonna have to, like, those classes aren't going to count towards anything, and like being okay with, okay, maybe I'm gonna have to take like 3 more classes in the grand scheme of things and kind of have to squeeze those in, but at least I get to do something that I much more enjoy doing. So I think that was another thing, is just being open.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Sai. And I really enjoyed all of the talks. We have thanks coming in the chat. I did just drop a link in the chat for folks to let you know. We do want to make sure we take time to thank all 3 of our amazing Spark speakers. You definitely got me thinking this morning and asking some new questions. And I'm excited to go and learn a little bit more about some of these people. I'm especially curious to learn about who else had an impact in World War II. I don't think I've ever asked myself that question before, and excited to learn about it. So if you want to learn more about Daniel, Sayumi, or Sai, you can find information on them in our alumni quarter. And I dropped that link in the chat for you. We are wrapping up our Spark Talks now and want to just let you know that we are going to take a short break so that you all can grab your lunch. And then we're going to ask you to join us again for our guest speaker, Jacqueline Howard, who is going to be sharing with us about her journey as a biomedical engineer who went into global supply chain. And it is a really beautiful segue from our morning speakers talking about the collaboration required to work in STEM and to work globally, and into Jacqueline and her experience as a leader in supply chain. And so I did just drop the link for that Zoom room for Ms. Howard's talk into the chat. You can grab it from there, copy paste it right now, or you can jump back into Symposium to grab it from there. That talk will start today at 11:30. And so there's a couple minutes for you to grab some lunch, join us back there. Thank you so much for joining us as we kicked off the Senior Division Fair today. And we look forward to seeing you in about 10 minutes.